Hi, this is Tadessa. Welcome to a complete course in calculus. In this section, we'll talk about the basic differentiation rules. So the first one is the derivative of a constant function. So if you have f of x equal to c, so the derivative will be what? 0. We proved that in the previous video. You can go back and watch that. So example will be if I have f of x equal to 4, constant function, f of x equal to pi square. Pi is a number, so pi square is what? Pi times pi. F of x equal to e to the power of 4. All these are called constant functions. They are just numbers. So their derivative will be what? 0. So that is what we call it, constant rule. The second one is what is called power rule. So the power rule says if you have a function of this form, f of x equal to x to the power of n, where n is rational number. So rational number means what? Any natural number, any integer, or any integer divided by non-zero integer. So if n is rational number, then the derivative of x to the power of n will be n times x to the power of n minus 1. So basically what you have to do is this, what we call it exponent, becomes the coefficient, and then you remove or subtract 1 from the exponent. Let's see an example. Example will be if I say f of x equal to x cubed. So the derivative becomes what? Now n is 3, so it will be 3x to the power of 3 minus 1. So it will be 3x to the power of 2. Another example will be f of x equal to 1 over x. Oh, do we have any exponent or power now? The answer is no, but I can rewrite using the law of exponent. This can be written as what? X to the power of negative 1. So note this. Remember, 1 over x to the power of n is the same as what? X to the power of negative n. So in this case, the exponent is 1, so it can be written as x to the power of negative 1. Now I was able to write 1 over x as power. So the derivative becomes what? Okay, the exponent is negative 1, so it becomes negative 1 x to the power of minus 1. Then I have to subtract 1. So this becomes what? Minus 1 means just a minus x to the power of negative 1. That is what the derivative is. Now, if you want to write it with a positive exponent, this is minus x to the power of negative 2 means 1 over x squared. So that's how you find. Maybe another simple example will be, again, if I have f of x equal to radical x. So what will be the derivative? The derivative of x. What is radical x means? This is called radical notation. It can be written using an exponential notation. Radical x means x to the power of 1/2. So the derivative becomes what? 1/2 x to the power of half minus 1. So this is 1/2 x. What is half minus 1? It is negative half, right? So that will be the derivative. Again, if you don't want the exponent, this minus half becomes x to the 1/2. And we know that 1 x to the power of half means a radical x. So the derivative becomes 1 over 2 radical x. Okay. So another rule. So far we saw the power rule and the constant rule. The third rule is what we call it the constant multiple rule, which says if you have a function, let's say f of x equal to 4 times, let's say, x cubed. Now this 4 is called a coefficient. It's a constant multiple of x cubed. So if you want to find the derivative of that, just keep 4 and then find the derivative of x cubed. What is the derivative of x cubed? 3x squared. So it becomes what? 12x squared. So the rule says the derivative d by dx of c, any constant, times f of x. So if you have a function, so in our case here, the x cubed times f of x, c is 4. So if you want to find the derivative of a constant times f of x, just factor out the constant, and then it becomes what? The derivative of f of x. That's called constant multiple rule. I'm sure this is more than enough example. And the fourth one is, if you want to find the derivative of sum of functions f of x plus g of x plus h of x plus k of x. So if you have a sum of functions and if you want to find the derivative of that, this is nothing but the derivative of each function, the sum of the derivative of each function, g of x plus d by dx of h of x plus d by dx, which is the derivative k of x. This is called sum rule. If you have, instead of plus here, if you have a minus, so let's say instead of plus, if all this is minus, then if this is minus, 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 the derivative of the difference becomes what? The difference of the derivative. This is called sum and difference rule. So example will be, let's say you have a function f of x equal to 4x to the fifth plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 7. So in this case, I have f, I mean, I shouldn't call it f because I have f1 function, 2 function, 3 function, 4 functions, right? So this is the sum and difference of 4 functions. So if I want to find the derivative of this function, everything, I'll just find the derivative of each. And then I will use derivative of a constant multiple rule, power rule, right? So 5 times 4 is what? 20, x to the power of 4 plus 2 times 2 is 4x minus 5 is a constant, derivative of x is 1 minus derivative of 7 is 0. So if you simplify this guy, it becomes 4x minus 5. That will be the derivative of the sum and difference of functions. So another basic differentiation will be the derivative of trigonometric and exponential function, which is if you have f of x equal to sine of x, this is called a trigonometric function. The derivative becomes what? Cos x. The proof is, just use the definition of derivative, and then you have to remember this. Sine of alpha plus beta is nothing but sine alpha cos beta plus sine beta cos alpha. That's what you have to use in the proof. Other than that, it's straightforward. And if you have f of x equal to cos x, the derivative becomes what? Minus sine x. And the third basic rule says, if you have f of x equal to e to the x, this is called natural exponential function, an exponential function whose base is e, 2.718, right? The irrational number. Then the derivative of e to the x is itself. So these are the basic differentiation rules. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.